Greetings and welcome. As you come on in, please open up the chat or scroll down to the chat depending on the device that you are on and give me a thumbs up or shoot an 1111 or launch some cool emojis. I love seeing emojis. It actually makes things on my end a little bit more fun. So greetings and welcome to my weekly live open Q&A, and since COVID, we have been doing a free group energy healing session as part of my weekly show here on SEM Mondays, which is known as my weekly live show at YouTube here, which is known as SEM Mondays. And it seems like time is speeding up, and yet it's nice to, I think, have this regularly scheduled time each Monday to unplug, turn devices off other than what you're streaming on, and, be able to get the answers to your questions, because I don't know about you, but if I'm starting something new and I can't get all of the answers, it's going to leave me wondering, am I doing this right or not? And in those types of scenarios, if I can't get access to the best sources of information, I'll just stop, right? So, and that to me would be heartbreaking, right? Because you might be surprised to know how many emails I receive from people who have known about source energy medicine or knew about source energy medicine sometimes 10 or 12 years ago, and for whatever reason they didn't stick with it. And the really unsettling part is their challenges are more often than not like way worse than they were even if it was a couple of years ago. I mean, think about most challenges. They do tend to be progressive, whether it's acquired or believed to be genetic. Things do tend to get worse with time. So it's cool to be able to, I think, I created SEM Mondays. I really did not want to do this, and yet I realized that, if I don't want you to quit, right? So if it takes standing here for some time every Monday to be able to answer your questions, to support you every way that I can, then, that was ultimately what got me through all of my resistance to doing this. And then, when the whole COVID thing came about, within Source Energy Medicine, we have this amazing technology that is energy work. It's called the non-material aspect of Source Energy Medicine, and it's named that because there's no material substance, right? There's no water, there's no bottles, there's no charging label, and it is absolutely the fastest way I can share Source Energy Medicine technology with you. So we can't do what would be the equivalent of an entire session that I would do one-on-one with a client, but we can do a lot. And the parts that we can do are the parts that are most critical to your health and well-being, right? So, and you don't have to understand all of the technical details, but if you're not familiar with the non-material aspect of Source Energy Medicine, on our YouTube channel, there's a video that explains it. You can simply, either in Google or in YouTube, just type in Source Energy Medicine, energy work, or Source Energy Medicine non-material aspect, N-O-N, material like material substance. So thank you for the 11s, Don and Pam and Bill. Welcome. Awesome to have you. Thank you for the beautiful emojis. Very, very cool. Thank you for your kind words too. It's 111 for Pam and Bill. I love that. That is indeed why I chose this time. And I pretend that on the West Coast it is 10:10 when we start, even though it's 10:11. But in my mind it's 10:10. And thank you, Barbara Ann. Thank you for your kind words. Said it's a high point of her week. That is awesome, because I think it's awesome because it's true for me too. To have taken something that I had so much resistance to doing, and really took a lot of coercing. And God bless Milo, who does most of our tech stuff. I've known he's a close personal friend. I've known him for a long time, and I think if we didn't have that kind of relationship, I wouldn't be standing here, because he literally coached me through, really thinking about the potential benefit of having a regularly scheduled free platform. Not everybody's interested in our online workshops. Although these days, my gosh, mastering source energy medicine, which essentially is what our online workshops enable you to do, is so empowering. And at the same time, like for me, not only has it been such a gift and such a blessing and truly miraculous to not have had any of the signs or symptoms of any of the challenges that I had before source energy medicine, really since late 2004, 2005. And it's a really, really, really long time. And it's like so long, it's kind of hard to grasp on one hand. But even better than that for me is just a peace of mind knowing, right? I can't predict the future. I can co-create a future of my design to a very large degree, but not 100%, right? Too many moving parts and variables, and I'm not alone in this co-creative process. And yet it gives me a great sense of comfort and empowerment and peace knowing whatever life brings my way, I have all of the tools, all of the technology, all of the resources, and of course an amazing community to support me. And now we have, non-material source energy medicine practitioners. We have folks who are going through a certification program to become a certified source energy medicine coach. An amazing, amazing, amazing group of people. I mean, this is going to be such a gift for the world. And we'll be. I'm going to continue to talk about that for a long time because I know. Because of COVID, there was either, people are furloughed or out of work, lost jobs disappeared, companies disappeared, businesses went away a lot pretty quickly. And there are a lot of people who are, the universe is providing an opportunity to create a career change. And, our coaches are able to coach from anywhere in the world, and our clients can be anywhere in the world. So everyone in the comfort and safety of their own home, and earn really well at the same time, doing work that is so healing and a blessing to everyone. So it might seem from your perspective I get excited pretty easily, and I really don't, especially. There's a lot about source energy medicine that is just like kind of commonplace for me. I don't take it for granted, and I really try hard to see it all with fresh eyes, kind of like through the eyes of somebody and 5-year-old. And as with all of that, the non-material source energy medicine practitioners are helping hundreds, if not thousands, of people every week, every month, month in, month out around the world. And then our coaches are going to be able to do things in a different way, right? They're not going to, some of our non-material source energy medicine practitioners are also becoming certified coaches, which I think is the ultimate, because then they can help folks getting started with charging labels. They can create custom source energy medicine protocols that are specifically tailored to your individual goals and challenges, but then they can also complement that with one-on-one and small group energy healing sessions, which would actually help to facilitate and to speed the overall journey, right? The overall healing process, and then be there on a regular scheduled basis to support their clients, which I've wanted to have a certification program probably since 2005. And, until transitioning to doing it online, it just would have been far too cost prohibitive and time intensive for most folks, right? It would have been, a lot of weekends flying somewhere to continue the studying. And now it's not just our coaching program, but even the Source Energy Medicine Mastery Club, which has our fundamentals workshops. You start when you're ready, you go at your own pace, and when you're done, you're done. And yet you have long-term access to the content depending on your membership level. So I think it's amazing that whether you just want to master the charging labels or you want to become an energy healing practitioner, that you can do it from the comfort and safety of your own home. And, I get to stay in the comfort and safety of my own home. Not that long ago, I was away from home so many weeks a year. I don't even like to think about it anymore. And I was talking with a friend about it the other day because in 2020, pretty early on in this COVID crisis, I started to grow microgreens. And if you don't know about microgreens, they're some of the most nutrient-dense plants available to humans. There's a lot of really good research. It's interesting because a lot of the research is centered around broccoli microgreens and broccoli sprouts. And yet, broccoli are part of the brassica family, and which is includes kohlrabi, for example. And kohlrabi doesn't get, studied. So kohlrabi kind of is out of the spotlight. And yet I'm highly confident just from my own experience with them that all brassicas are pretty similar in terms of their potential. They certainly have different enzyme and vitamins and mineral, makeups, but they're all absolute high vibe superfood as they're often described. And I think it's a perfect description of them. And one of the reasons why I started growing them was when I was doing live workshops, I'd be gone for 2 and more often was 3 weeks at a time. And I would always make sure that our hosts held the workshops within a short drive to a really, really, really good health food store. And sometimes it was just Whole Foods. And I say just Whole Foods because I don't think Whole Foods is a really, really, really good health food store. Even in its infancy, in its early days, it was an okay health food store and seems to have gotten worse. And just to clarify my comment, if I were to take everything at Whole Foods and put them in 2 piles, really healthy nutrition, right? Things that actually humans would benefit greatly from the other stuff, there would be a very small pile of the food that is healthy. And I think Whole Foods takes an unfair advantage of an uneducated consumer. Salad bars and hot food stuff not open these days because of COVID, at least here in Colorado. And it's criminal to me because I would often see people who are going through transitional diets, eating there, thinking they're making better choices. And it's essentially the same salad. And this varies from Whole Foods to Whole Foods, so it's not a blanket statement. But if you drive around the back, you'll see the same Cisco truck delivering the food that they're serving in their food bar as you would at a regular conventional supermarket, and yet they're charging a premium for it. Consumer goes in, they think, oh, it's healthy food, and they literally overfill their plate with food like a ridiculous portion because in their mind, I imagine, I don't know for sure, but I've practiced nutrition long enough that I understand the logic. I talked to enough people who did this that they eat more of it because it's good for you. And I'm talking about like fried chicken and stuff with really poor quality oils. None of it's good for you. And yet they think because it comes from Whole Foods, it's healthy. So it's a sore spot for me, but some investigative reporter really needs to shine the spotlight on this because it's an injustice. You're paying a couple of dollars more per pound for the same food, and you can get the same food. And again, there are some Whole Foods where they have a kitchen and they try to do a really good job, and those are very, very few and far between. But when I traveled, I would stock up because I would only be at the same location, same hotel room for 4 or 5 days at a time, and then I was on to the next place. I would stock up I would literally empty the cooler of microgreens. And I remember doing that because I knew, if I eat nothing else that day, and I would literally eat a pound of microgreens, which is insane, especially because it could be $8 for 2 ounces, But it was worth it because I knew if that was all I ate that day in terms of food that actually had some kind of decent nutrient density, I'd be fine, right? And being on the road, highly stressful, ridiculously long work days, 12, 14-hour work days, sleeping in strange beds, every couple of days changing hotel rooms, driving, whole life, unplugged and turned upside down. And yet it was microgreens. And I often, would comment to Valerie and to friends that, in an emergency situation, I'm highly confident if I had good quality water and microgreens, I'd be fine, right? Not long term, but short term, I'd be fine. And a lot of people stockpile, canned beans and stuff. And sure, that's giving you calories, but it's no nutrition, right? The nutrient value, that's like dead food. Whereas microgreens are a completely live food. And so way back when COVID started, and Boulder Farmers Market I was going to every week, wasn't available. So going around to each farm I did for a couple of weeks, and a 2-hour trip turned into a 4-hour trip, and just logistically it was ridiculous, and I couldn't always get right. It was like such an uncertain time, and lines were long, and it was nuts. I really felt like I was living in like what you would see of Russia during the Cold War. And to really take some of that empowerment back, because I felt completely disempowered, right? My whole food infrastructure, because 8 months of the year I'm eating primarily from a biodynamic farm that's certified biodynamic, certified organic, and like 3 or 4 other organic farms. I know the farmers, I know the food, my body knows the food. And it's an amazing way to live and to eat. And all of a sudden that was gone. And, starting a farm on our property is just completely impractical, although I did spend a tremendous amount of time last growing season trying to get kale and lettuces and stuff going, and just horribly unsuccessful. Whereas microgreens, I was beautifully successful. I mean, a couple of $1,000 investment, and it took sure a couple of months to figure it all out, because I wanted to grow in soil. I want organic soil, organic seed, and sunshine. No grow lights, no artificial lights, and filtered water. Source energy medicine, of course. And those variables, it's easier actually to grow microgreens in water, except there's very low nutrient density in hydroponically grown microgreens. They don't even look healthy, like horrible compared to microgreens that are grown from organic seed, organic soil, filtered water, and under sunshine. And in Colorado, we have 300 plus sunny days a year. To not use that source and to use, artificial light to grow just makes no sense unless you're doing it at really large commercial scale. But even then, I know you can do it in a greenhouse, right there. Arizona microgreens, they do it at a really big scale, no lights, and exactly the way I described. So, it's interesting to think that, all of those years, it was, essentially like survival eating, and knowing that was, the most nutritious food I could possibly eat. And it provides amazing fuel. Not only is it nutrient dense, but it's highly bioavailable, meaning my body can digest it, assimilate it, and use it so fast it's not funny. What does this have to do with source energy medicine? Not much, really, except source energy medicine has to do with your health and well-being and everything that you put in your mouth, right? Food and beverage has an effect on you. We've never as humans experienced such high levels of stress before. And eating live food, nutrient-dense food, organic food is one of the best things that we can do for our physiology to help to counteract the negative effects of stress, right? There are amazing studies that are done. Not many studies that are done on really long-term, prolonged high levels of stress like we all have been experiencing to a greater or lesser degree. But I think even on the low scale, it's unprecedented, right? And on the high scale, I can't imagine, right? I mean, people lost jobs, lost homes, all sorts of insane things going on, and people lost their lives, right? So unprecedented levels of stress, uncertainty, and fear. And you know what? I think I'm a ultra optimistic guy, and yet I read the New York Times, and, I listen to NPR, and we're going to be living with this for a long time. There's no question about it. So, if growing your own microgreens makes sense, I mean, you definitely need space, you need the financial resources, but there are places, right, that you can get these, right. That's awesome that Ada is here. So Ada is one of our non-material source energy medicine practitioners. She's going through her coach training, and she lives in Calgary. One of the guys who has been helping me to figure out how to grow lives in, I think, outside of Calgary, and has built a magnificently successful, beautiful. He and his wife started this 5 years ago, and they have a magnificently successful microgreen business. And of that is home delivery service. So you just go to their website, you sign up, and you choose what you want. And every week you get these fresh, or they're not certified organic, but they grow according to organic standards. So all of the things that I mentioned, they comply with. And they're lovely people. They're absolutely charming young couple. Have a young family, they have a couple of kids. And in the beginning, they were getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do the microgreen thing, and they were working full-time jobs. I've heard him tell stories about what their business was like during COVID, and it skyrocketed, right? I mean, think about it. If I could have, if they would deliver to me, I wouldn't be growing microgreens. There's no two ways about it. I would be ordering pounds of it a week from them, and they're micro acres. If anyone is watching this and who's in the Calgary, and they deliver to a really far-reaching area. I know it's geographically really large area that they cover. It's huge, like mind-boggling, just thinking about it from a logistics side and a business side of it. But they're absolutely magnificent, and their greens haven't eaten any. But all of the photos and videos that I've seen of their products, right, their crops, and I've seen a lot of them, just off the charts, like absolutely off the charts. They set a very high bar, and what they're doing is what I strive for in terms of just providing for me and my family. But now I'm to the point where I'm sharing with friends and neighbors because I'm experimenting. So, I mention all of this because of because of the condition that we're living in, and the condition that we will be living in moving forward. If COVID-19 was not a health wake-up call for you, like if you're not overweight, if you're not out of shape, if you don't have diabetes, or any of the hypertension, a lot of cardiovascular things, like all of that stuff can be completely reversed with food, right? Food and lifestyle. If you're not one of those folks, you're in the minority, right? For most folks, this was a massive wake-up call, because all of a sudden any of those things increases your morbidity rate radically, which is kind of crazy to think about, just being overweight all of a sudden. And of course, just being overweight increases your morbidity, especially if you're morbidly obese, but things like, adult onset diabetes and hypertension and so many things that I think large majority of the population would just turn to the pharmaceutical world, not for an answer, but to just help to mask the symptoms, lessen the symptoms, and often it just perpetuates the problem. And I think more often about folks who have the adult onset diabetes, where they just keep eating the same crap, right, that got them in the pickle to begin with. And it's really challenging for me, to see folks who are just like their physical well-being is so poor, it's so low. And I'm thinking about like times when I'm checking out at Whole Foods, which the Whole Foods demographic has changed radically since COVID, which I think is awesome. It's not only healthy, fit-looking people anymore. More and more, it's people who are trying to make that transition to eating a better diet. So, Whole Foods isn't the answer in terms of the retail store, but eating whole foods in terms of fresh, not processed, not refined foods is the answer, right? So it's hard. I haven't practiced nutrition in a really long time, probably, I don't know, 18 years, maybe more. And yet I think about food all day, every day, right? I eat a lot, right? I eat at least, 3 meals a day and snacks. And every meal I'm always thinking, what is the best thing that I could possibly put in my mouth that will give me the nutrition and the fuel that I need to support my life, right? My mission, my vision, my work, my play, all of it. And that's it in a nutshell. Food is fuel, period. There's absolutely an economy to food, in that everything that I put in my mouth is either like making a deposit, right, that will compound over time, or it's making a withdrawal. And up until I was probably 30, 32, most things that I put in my mouth was making a withdrawal. And I really do look at a lot of the health challenges that I started experiencing in my late 20s was like I was physically being foreclosed on, if you will. Like my debts were like recovering from my debts was becoming really, really, really challenging. And that's why when I had my big wake up call, right, my parents died 2 days apart, and I knew I had to make radical changes, and changing my food was the first thing that made sense, right? I was like 35 pounds overweight, which I have a very small frame. To be 35 pounds overweight is a lot, right? Percentage of body mass, that's a lot to be overweight. And, especially being so young. So it's interesting to think about. And I do continue to think about food all day, every day, not, perseverating on it, but, and I'm constantly trying to change, like, think, is this still serving me, or should I change it up? Does my body need more diversity? Is this working really well, or what do I need to tweak? Before Source Energy Medicine, I had such a restricted diet. There was stuff that I couldn't eat without suffering. And now I could pretty much eat anything that I want. And yet I still choose to eat food that's going to make a massive deposit, right? In terms of a benefit, right? A gain that I will absolutely reap the reward of at some point. And sure, healthy, vibrant people do get, they die, right? Everybody's going to die. And my commitment is to be happy, healthy, vibrant, productive, contributing to society until I take my last breath, God willing. And I've just watched, watch my older brother, who's only 5 years older than me, and the life choices that he made. And he died a few years ago, largely as the result of really, 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 really poor life choices, and not just food, but certainly alcohol and drugs, and just a lot of really, really, really poor choices. So, I can't not think about, like, we have the same genes, I have the same, available options on the menu in terms of choices. And it's not that my life has been struggle-free and a feathered nest, and quite the contrary. I especially look at my life up until we were probably 20. It seemed like he was like the golden child, and I was the one that my family absolutely would have voted to be the least likely to do anything. And, kind of interesting the way things have unfolded. But, I saw my parents' death as, I saw the blessings within, and I saw the gifts within, and one of the things was a wake-up call, right? It was, if I don't make radical changes, of course, being the youngest of four siblings, I have that, I could see my genetic future ahead of me, and it was frightening, absolutely frightening. And, I'm not too many years away from how old my mother died, when she was 66. Not too many years in my future. My father's life, as the man that as I knew him growing up, his life ended when he was 66. His body slowly deteriorated over another 7 years, but I think 66 and 67 was pretty much when, my mother's life ended at 66. But my father continued to have a pulse, but very, very low quality of life in terms of being able to do anything, functional. or fun for that matter. It was just slowly watching them die for 7 years. And, I'm really, really grateful for making the choices that I made, because I had no mentors. I knew, I was just completely mainstream, medically kind of conservative, although not real fond of doctors. I don't know anyone is. It seems like some people really are, right? They just go to the doctor for absolutely everything, and that was not me, and yet I would, right? So kind of interesting to think about. And I talk about all of this because, the stress isn't going away. The uncertainty hopefully is going to be diminished somewhat. And, I hope a lot of the insanity, right? I hope we all start to treat each other with a lot more compassion and tolerance and love and support and generosity and kindness, because never before have we needed more of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get things set up and transition to our group energy healing session. It's important for you to know that whether you're watching this live or in replay, there is equal potential in terms of benefit for you. If you want to know more about how you can maximize this opportunity, right, to maximize the gifts and the blessings and the potential miracles that are wrapped up in this work, there's a video on our YouTube channel where I think the title is "Will Source Energy Medicine Work for Me?" And I talk about all of the things that are determining factors as to whether source energy medicine will work for you. And the same applies whether we're talking charging labels or energy work, because you are always healing yourself. And there are a lot of variables that you are in complete control of, just like you are in complete control of what you're going to have for your next meal, right? Unless you're incarcerated. And even then you do have choice, right, based on religious and I guess moral beliefs, right? Somebody who's a vegan and they're incarcerated, they feed them vegan food, right? Which I think is awesome. So if you want to understand how it is, like what you can do to help to increase the effectiveness, the potentiality, literally, of this session, check out that video. If you have any trouble finding it, just leave a comment in the chat below here, below this player, or send me an email. But there's absolutely no question that the folks who know the most about source energy medicine benefit the greatest. And by that I mean, like our non-material source energy medicine practitioners, there's no question that they receive blessings and miracles that others just don't know are possible, right? And because they don't know they're possible, it's outside of their scope of belief. And, it's like leaving money on the table, right? Whereas non-material source energy medicine practitioners have been immersed in this work long enough and have experienced it personally and with friends and family and loved ones, and they're the animals that they care for. They know anything is possible, right? And things don't have to be slow. They don't have to take time. And if they do take time, it's usually because of a belief that I hold, right? So check out that video. Even if you've seen it before, that's a video that I actually watch every once in a while. It's really condensed. It's very concise and precise in terms of how you can actually help yourself to heal yourself. So on your end, get as comfortable as you can. A lot of folks like to lie down and close their eyes. If that feels appropriate and it's safe for you, if you're in a place that's appropriate and that's safe for you, please do that. If it's not safe and appropriate for you, please don't do that. And just come back to this and watch the replay, right? Carve out some time later in the day or tomorrow and check out the replay. And during these sessions, I always invite you to choose one goal or one challenge. And the reason why I say that is because if you just choose one, it's really easy to track, right? I'm always most interested in measurable results, right? What can you really, really pinpoint in terms of measurable results, right? Things like pain are really easy. Pain is often measured on a scale of 0 to 10. Sometimes your pain is at an 8 or a 10 or a 12 even. And after the session, it's at a 1 or a 2 or a 0. That is measurable results, right? Other things, maybe less tangible, right? Because like lack of mental clarity is really hard to frame on a scale of 1 to 10, and yet you can, right? Because if you do have enough mental clarity to remember what it's like when your brain is working optimally, right? That would be, a 10. That's an optimally working brain, which I know some people, like, they've never experienced that. That certainly was my experience before source energy medicine. And since, I've been able to experience my brain in ways I didn't even know was possible. And yet I know what brain fog is like, or just a slow brain, a confused brain, a low functioning brain. And then I would say, from my optimal, it's functioning at like a 3 today. What the heck is going on? And then afterwards, there should be some way that I have a discernible difference, right? Sometimes it's tangible, and I can put words to it, or I can measure it in some way. I could photograph it. There's some evidence, right, that I could share with somebody else. Somebody else could see it, or I can explain it. And sometimes there isn't, right? I just feel lousy, and now all of a sudden I feel better. But even feeling lousy, right? What does that mean? Body aches, lethargy, just like no fuel in the tank. There's a lot of ways to just quantify things. And I think part of the challenge is most of us, like, our normal is just feeling lousy. So we don't even, like, my life before source energy medicine, that was it. Like, I didn't even know what well-being felt like because I never experienced it. Certainly when I was pretty young. And even then, I would have been characterized as a sickly child, right? So even some of my earliest memories were just like being in bed and just like horribly sick, and nobody understood it. And my older brothers, it was just an odd thing, right? They didn't. I got sick seemed like 20 times more than they did, or even if we got the same flu, my symptoms were probably like 10 or 20 times worse, and it took me 2 to 3 times longer to recover from it, right, than they did. So certainly a lot of childhood teasing and things like that, borderlining on emotional abuse, and a lot of it. But it's. I only share that because that may be you as well, and I'm certainly not looking for sympathy. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful to have recognized that at a really, really young age, I was very different than my siblings. And that was really, really helpful. That was the first way. That was the most discernible. So when it comes to this work, yes, indeed, you are always healing yourself, and it is that source energy that is part of you that is eternal. It is that part of you that animates your body, right? It's that part of you that breathes your lungs and digests your food and grows your hair, and everything, right? It's that same energy that took a sperm and an egg and created the stuff that ended up becoming, a beautiful, miraculous baby 9 months later. And it's that same stuff that, the same energy that took that stuff and, fast forward to wherever you are in your journey. I think it's too easy to think that, there isn't a divine intelligence behind all of this. And yet, how could there not be, right? So get as comfortable as you can. I play chanting while I'm doing this, just so that you know that we're still broadcasting. And I turn off my camera. This title slide will remain up during the work. Go ahead and get as comfortable as you possibly can. And even though you are indeed responsible for healing yourself, and you are setting the pace and the tempo and the speed and the depth of this work, the only thing really for you to do is to just allow, just trust. Let go of any resistance, let go of any beliefs that might prevent you from receiving these blessings and these miracles, these gifts. And with every inhale, inhale greater and greater and greater allowance of source energy. Again, this is in you. You don't have to go outside of you. This is in you. And source energy medicine simply helps to remove the blocks that would prevent you from experiencing that completely all day, every day. So continue to breathe comfortably. Continue to allow. And as you think of what it is that you would like to receive, try and see it the way the source of all creation sees it, which I believe is as simple human error, miscreation, and there is no order of difficulty when it comes to healing. Something that seems bigger doesn't necessarily take more time or effort or energy or expense. It's all the same to the source of all creation. And while you hold on to that perspective, also hold on to what I believe is the way that the source of all creation sees you, which is your perfection, your divinity, your beauty, your radiance, your unique genius, your eternal nature. Continue to hold on to that version of you as you breathe in allowance of source energy, allowance of transformation, balance and restoration, and allow yourself to let go any of the lies that you might have told yourself about not being worthy, about not being good enough, anything that you might feel shame or regret or remorse around. And if anything comes to mind where you think forgiveness would be appropriate, where it's not going to cause additional harm, just make a mental note of it and have the strength and courage with the source of all creation to make amends in any way that feels appropriate. It's not important for the other to even be aware of your forgiveness, whether it's forgiving yourself or forgiving another. Ultimately, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. And it can happen instantaneously the moment you commit to forgiving yourself and letting go. And as you let go of any guilt or shame or anything that you would characterize as a sin. To sin is an archery term, and it simply means to miss the mark. And as you forgive yourself, as you forgive others, you have the opportunity to try again, to be kinder, to be more compassionate, to be gentler, to be more gracious, to be more wise and intelligent. Continue to breathe and allow. And if your mind gets distracted, simply watch your thoughts float by like clouds in the sky and return to your breath. And every inhale, breathe in the allowance of source energy, which is agape love, far beyond unconditional love, the truest, most pure form of love, divine love. And breathe out anything that is other than love. I invite you to take a nice deep breath as you continue to allow, continue to receive, continue to trust in the process. And please know that as short in terms of linear time as this energy work is, we're able to do a tremendous amount in terms of uploading, downloading, and installing source energy medicine technology within that time. And this work will continue to unfold for you for hours to come. There's definitely added benefit to coming back and revisiting either this one or any of the SEM Mondays replays from the last, I don't know how many months now, probably 9 months. I believe we started them the end of April or beginning of March. We transitioned from doing SEM Mondays on Zoom to YouTube, and that was pretty much when we started doing the, not too far into YouTube did we expand the format from just a super quick 10-minute Q&A to a much more lengthy format. We're coming up on an hour now, and I do indeed. My intention is that every moment of this is valuable, is healing, is transformational. And sometimes it's a belief that is transformed, and sometimes it's an organ or a function or a system or an aspect of our being, right? Like mental or physical or emotional or financial or relationships. And no pun intended with my talk earlier on growing microgreens, but often it's, planting a seed, and sometimes the germination period of a seed is lengthy, right? Sometimes if you share source energy medicine with a friend, and they don't follow up, I always see that as a not certainly wasted breath or wasted time or effort or wasted love, but it is planting a seed that is planted deeply and just needs time to be in, the right environment, right? Just needs a little more love, and needs a little more attention, needs a little more space sometimes, right? It might need some alone time in order for it to sprout and germinate fully and grow into its full potential. So, and that's why I said sometimes, folks find source energy medicine and it is, 10 or 12 years ago. Sometimes, it's 2005 or 2006. And, that's a ridiculously long germination time in my mind, but I don't judge that, right? The part that's hard for me is like the what could have been possible, right? So I do indeed hope that every moment of this was precious to you and healing and transformative in some way. So just as I was coming back on, I checked the chat for questions. I don't see any questions other than William's, and I'm not sure. So William's question is, how do you continually stay in the healing process? And I'm not sure if you're asking how do I or how do you. If it is me, how do I? It's interesting because a lot of it is like playing jazz, especially when I work one-on-one with a client. And yet, if you know anything about jazz, like those who have mastered playing jazz, they've mastered the fundamentals, right? They mastered the scales. They're masters of their instrument. They're a master of their entire craft, right? If you're a Malcolm Gladwell fan, they put in their 10,000 hours, right? They don't just start playing jazz after they picked up an instrument, unless they are, a unique genius, right? And that to me is the way the energy work is, right? There's so much structure and foundation that it enables me to, once everything is uploaded, downloaded, and installed, to then just have an improv. On your end, I always encourage you to just come back to the breath, right? Because your mind, you can't stop your mind. You can't stop your thoughts. You can't stop, the fear, the worry, the concern. But we're always in charge of whether we allow that to persist or not. And even in most schools of meditation, always encourage you to just come back to the breath. Just come back to the breath time and time and time again. Continue to breathe in allowance and continue to let go of anything that is other than love, that's other than allowance. And sometimes, it's 50 times, 100 times during a session, and it's fine. And sometimes it does require a little bit of patience, and sometimes it's diligence, right? There have been people in our community who have been watching the replays to these 2 or 3 times a day as part of their wellness game plan, which I think is amazing. There's absolutely no downside to it. And, within source energy medicine, the worst thing that can happen is nothing. And if you experience this, nothing is going to happen, right? You're going to have hopefully a bit of peace and calm and relaxation and upliftment. On an energetic level, there's a whole lot going on, whether it's measurable and tangible and perceivable or not. Depends on a lot of factors, how sensitive you are to energy and things like that, how aware you are of your body for that matter. So as much fun as this has been, I literally could stand here for a few more hours and talk with you folks. I have a super busy schedule, and I'm just going to check the chat here real quick, and then I do indeed have to skedaddle. God willing, be back here next Monday at our same regularly scheduled time. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, it's absolutely one of the best ways that I can continue to support you. Click that awesome bell icon. That way YouTube will let you know when I'm live and when we upload a new video. YouTube makes this really, really easy for you to share our videos with your friends, with your social networks. Just click the share button and you'll see all of these options. And if you are interested in exploring our online workshops, I think there's almost always a link in the show notes. You just click the see more or whatever it is that says that it prompts you to below the notes below this video. And you'll see links. There's a link to my email, and anything you need, just ask for it, right? So I am always interested in, I really celebrate those who ask for what they want, right? So if you want information about our online workshops, ask for it. If you want, if there's something that, if you don't know about the Source Energy Medicine Quick Start Guide, it's essential. If you want to explore Source Energy Medicine, it's where our charging labels are, electronic copy of my book, Heal Thyself, the latest edition. I think there's 16 video modules that are very concise, very heavily edited. Not going to take you a whole lot of time to go through the content in there. Complete how to take Source Energy Medicine video, and it's all free. Really well organized. You can access it from any device that you can get online with, right? Any internet access device will get you there. That's linked up in the show notes. So thank you, Pam and Bill. They say that was incredible. Had so much healing with a couple of O's in here or so. Thank you so very much with heart and a very cool angel emoji. Thank you. And that's what Marty shares. Thank you with 2 awesome heart emojis. Thank you, Marty. God willing, we will indeed be back here next Monday at our regularly scheduled time. I do accept healing requests. You can put them in the chat. You can send them ahead of time by email. Don, I know you're with us. I saw your email. I hope that was super helpful for you, my friend. And take really, really, really good care of yourself. Take advantage of the replays for this. Take advantage of our community. Right? Our community is just absolutely, absolutely amazing. And please, please, please find it in your heart to be more kind, more tolerant, more polite, more generous, more gracious in every way that you could possibly do those things. And I do indeed wish you continued blessings on your journey with Source Energy Medicine. Bye for now.